I got it.
You're live.
Okay. Hey, this is Keith with How to Build Your Own Home. Welcome to weekly live chat. Every Thursday from 5 to 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, we just open it up for live chat. I want to talk about ADUs and some the things that people don't look for on an ADU. Sometimes we have an idea in our mind that that building would be great. I'd have an ADU, and we'll talk about what an ADU is here in just a second. If we have an imagination as to the service it will render, mom's going to live there, grandpa's going to come live with us, or you might be able to have a rental, or it might be the first stage in your construction. An ADU is basically an accessory dwelling unit, or a casita, or something like that. They're listed in a lot of different ways in a lot of building permitted offices, and they identify them differently. For example, in my neck of the woods, an ADU was only allowed up to 400 square feet if it was detached from the home. They've now changed that. State of California had a real strict requirement on ADUs. Now they put a state law in that anyone can put an ADU. And I'm now dealing with a student who's putting in a lot of different ADUs basically on the same lot, 3 different builds on the same lot. And so I want to talk about that because we're talking about multifamily living. We're talking about the boomer generation getting older, coming in, living with the younger kids. It's huge. The boomer generation is the second largest generation in America right now. The one after that is Generation X, or the next generation. Those 2 generations are right now the biggest bulge going through, I call it a demographic bulge, going through our culture right now. Well, as the ones getting older, they're going to come live with grandpa, come live with the kids and stuff like that. So it's a real pressure for an ADU or some sort of an additional dwelling unit on the home. So we're going to talk about some things that people don't look for when it comes to an ADU. The number one thing that's misunderstood, that's not known when planning for an ADU, is the sewer. All right. We think that if we put something typically in the backyard, that's where an ADU is going to go. If you have a side yard that's large enough, how are you going to connect the sewer? This is the biggest issue. Why? Imagine that this is your house and this is the front of the street. Well, the sewer is on the front of the street. It's not the back. If you put an ADU in the back, you've got to somehow connect the sewer from the house or from the front and bring it to the back. That is the hardest element to deal with. Why? That sewer line leaving the front of the house, and there's a clean out typically within 3 feet. That clean out's a circle about 3, maybe sometimes 4 inches, and it's got a cap on it, and it's got a square inside that cap. And then you turn it and you open it up and you can clean out the sewer if you need to. Well, that sewer line, when it's leaving the foundation of the home, if it's a slab on grade, it's about 3 to sometimes 4 feet below that finished grade, that top of that slab on grade. And then it starts to drop down, and it can drop down almost up to 12 to 14 feet, even deeper by the time it gets to the center of the street. You've got to dig around the house, tap into that, bring it around to the back or bring it around to the side. That is your biggest issue. All right. Now, if you're building a new construction and an ADU is the first thing you're going to build, well, great. You're going to have a line of sight that's not going to be difficult. So that's the first thing I want you to look for. When you're building an ADU, how am I going to tap into the sewer? Now, if, for example, you have a house like this, and on the back of the house, there's a toilet on the back of the wall right here, and you want to put an ADU right here, obviously you don't want to trench all the way around unless you can tap it if you need to remodel that bathroom at the same time, or you're going to do an ADU that's attached. Then it may not be as difficult to tap into the sewer in the existing home. So I want you to think about grade, slope drop, how you're going to access the sewer. Okay, that's the number one thing. And I can go to a job site and people tell me I want to do an ADU, and I'm going to tell them your cost is going to be really big on the foundation and on your sewer, because I can see how hard it is going. You're going to tear up landscaping up front. Maybe you have to rip out a tree. That sewer, I can tell you right now, is the biggest issue on a remodel on a home. When I did this home, the sewer was coming straight into the house. All right. I moved it all the way to the side of the house. Now it's in the road. So when I did do another addition in the bath, guess what? I just had to tear, and it's a dirt road anyway. I just dug into the dirt road, put in the sewer. I was good. So you want to plan for sewer, get it out of the way. If you're going to do more builds, a garage or something back there with another bathroom back there, try to keep your sewer lines clear and free of obstruction. That is the biggest issue. The next one is power. How are you going to get power? That's not much of a headache. If the power panel or meter panel is on the side of the house, you just come down into the ground with a conduit, not a direct bury, but a conduit bury, and you bring it back to the ADU. That's not nearly as hard, okay? The sewer is your nightmare. The next one, of course, is water, getting hot and cold out there. Now, you may not need to get hot out there because it may be too far. You're going to have your own water heater in the accessory dwelling unit, and that's going to heat the water for that unit. Getting the water out is another challenge. Now, let's say, for example, that you're going to do sewer, bring it from the front of the house, bring it to the back. Well, you're going to probably tap into the water at the same time. Now, some building inspectors may not let you bury multiple utilities in the same trench, all right? Most can let you do that if it's 6 feet wide and you got power and gas on opposite sides and all your water and sewer in the middle. So check with that. The more you can put into one trench, the better. If you have to do a trench for that and a trench for that and a trench for that, that gets to be very, very costly. So consider that. And of course, the last one is gas. If you've got a gas meter on the side of your house, it's not that hard to tap into that trench to the ADU if you're bringing gas to the ADU and come right up to that meter and have the gas company make the connection. But that's not nearly as a headache, again, as the sewer. And the last couple ones that I really want you to think about here are setbacks, all right? We think that we can put an ADU in there, but we don't realize that the city or the county permitting office has setbacks for that subdivision, or the HOA has setbacks, meaning any kind of building has to have a certain 12, 8, 5, 15-foot setback on the side, and it may require a certain number of feet setback from the back of the fence to the beginning of that building. Some of them will allow for a zero lot line, meaning I can put that a garage right up against the lot line as long as it's accessed by a private drive. There's a lot of different nuances with city coding and city ordinances that you have to look into before actually plotting that out. And so I would recommend a lot of people going into the permitting office, going to the city or the county, and you say, I would like to build an ADU about XYZ square footage, and I'd like to put it on this plot. And you can print up a little map of your plot with the county mapping, or you can ask them to print it up. And I'd like to put it here. What do you think I'm going to run into with regard to this? Now, let's go back to sewer just for a second. There's one more nightmare that's closely tied to sewer that you never consider, and that's the septic system. If you've got a septic on your lot and you want to do an ADU, you're going to have to pull a permit, and then the permit's going to go to the health department, and the health department's going to kick in the fact that here's my map of my sewer. Even if it was 20 or 30 years old, they're going to make you either upgrade that sewer or extend the size of that sewer to accommodate for that ADU. You see how much of an issue sewer is? Sewer is your number one challenge when it comes to an ADU. If you're connected to the city sewer, that's not nearly as a problem. But if it's a septic system and you want to do an ADU, you really need to do your research, because that could actually hit you upside the head and you'll not be prepared for it. And the next one here is, of course, your elevations, all right? If you've got a house here and you want to build an ADU here and it's in the backyard, you don't have a positive drainage. And that could be a real challenge, meaning that let's say your house is here and the street is here, and you've got positive slope for sewer going to the street, but you want to put an ADU behind in the backyard, but you've got a slope backyard. How are you going to get the sewer from here up high into the sewer line for the city? That's a sump pump. Again, more cost. Again, I can't begin to tell you how challenging it is to solve for sewer. Hopefully it's an easy situation. It's got a great line of sight. And if you have that line of sight, it's awesome. Great. But don't assume you can put it in without considering that. So I want everyone to think about your sewer line. Don't think about anything else, the sewer line. How easy, because sewer is gravity fed. Gas is a PSI. Water is a PSI. Power is an amperage. And those are all forced through the system by the natural PSI or strength of the utility coming to your house. Sewer is not that way. If you don't have a natural gravity flow into the natural sewer system, you've got to pump it into that direction. And again, that's a couple thousand. It could be for a home with 3 bedrooms and a couple bathrooms. So I wanted to give some real good feedback on that, get you wired straight, get you thinking straight. And this is something to think about if you're going to buy some land, all right? And you want to do an ADU later on. Plan for it. If you got a sewer system and you're putting it to the house, put a Y in that sewer system, put a little extension on it, cap that sucker, all right? And then you have a quick, easy connection into the sewer line. Sewer is not easy to tap into. You have to lift the whole line, all right? If you've ever glued 2 pieces of pipe together or cut into a piece of pipe and put in a wire, an extension, or a T, you got to lift those pipes, cut them just right, glue them, and set them down right. And hopefully you got it just right. If you don't have the ability to trench that far, you've got to use some other rubber gaskets and other makeshift systems to make it work. Sewer is the biggest challenge. And that's from my experience, and that's from logic, and that's something. So I wanted to give some feedback. A lot of people are thinking about ADUs. The other thing I want to mention real quickly is that an ADU is a great start for a home. I had a student just email me earlier this week and said, can I do an ADU first? And it depends on what the permitting office allows. And some HOAs have a maximum limit and a minimum limit of square footage on a home, meaning they're not going to let you build anything unless it's a certain square footage. And then some may cap you at the size of that square footage. Research. Get out there and figure it out and get some questions answered. And that's good. That's called foot traffic and getting on the ground, and boots on the ground, and figuring out, getting all the questions you need. I should actually do a checklist on ADUs. I just came up with it. And I'm going to put all this in a checklist for ADUs, and it will be in the download section. And if you're building a home or an ADU, this will be a checklist. There's a lot of stuff come to my mind, and I'll be able to put it into a checklist for you so you'll know exactly what you're looking for. Let's go ahead and start taking some questions. I also had some questions. I hope I can upload them on my phone.
This one goes right into that.
And answer that. Okay, let's go. This is from Dick Johnson. Hey, say, will any jurisdictions allow you to build a small home meeting ADU specs as your main home, so you can build in stages, then later build the main home and classify the original as an ADU? That's an it's not a matter of classifying it. It's a matter of whether it's attached or detached. If you build an ADU and you call it an ADU, and then you later do a main house, I would strongly recommend attaching it to the ADU. The minute it's detached, it's going to be called an accessory dwelling unit. That's just what it's going to be called. All right. When you attach it, it's considered the main home. Now, I built a home a couple of years ago. Remember that one, sweetie? That was over in Bloomington and area.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I wrestled with the city. We wanted to do an ADU, kind of a large one, in the back of the lot. They had a acre and a half of land, and the city wouldn't allow it because it exceeded the 400 square foot limit on an ADU. So I had to change the design of the home, and it was 700 square feet. Actually, it was more than that. It was 1,400 square feet.
It was huge.
It was big. So I had to bring it up front, put it in the front, near the front of the drive, and I had to build a very elaborate bridge or breezeway to connect the ADU. The minute I connected it, it was all part of the same home. All right. The minute you have a breezeway, the minute you connect it, they are not going to call it an ADU. It's just part of the main house, at least most jurisdictions. Some might get a little nitpicky on that, but they really can't. Like if you have a garage and you have a loft above the garage, a living space, and then you have a breezeway and it's connected to the main house, that's all part of the same thing. So that answers your question, is that I would strongly recommend trying to keep them connected if you can, and you avoid the nuances of, well, that's that and that's not that, and plan for that. And breezeways are nice.
You probably save on permitting fees.
You save on.
It would be a remodel, an addition rather than an ADU, right?
Yeah, my daughter's over there feeding her baby, so she'll be here in just a second. Lot of things to think about. Yeah, permitting might be, it may, it's going to be a separate permit unless, keep in mind that a lot of people want to do things in stages, but that one thing with stages is that when you build and design something for a permitted issue, let's say this is an ADU or a building, you're getting a permit for that. Then you want to build a garage later, that's going to be a permit for that. Then you want to do an ADU later, that's going to be a permit for that. It's hard to get them all on. If you do them all at once, that's one permit. You can save some money, but they're not going to. And this is really kind of an issue. Permitting offices will give you a certificate of occupancy when this build that you're going to live in is up to the snuff that they require for it to be livable. A workable kitchen, a workable bathroom, all walls completed, stuff like that. But you can ask them, can we do that and get a temporary certificate of occupancy for here, but then do the ADU later? I wouldn't recommend that because the city can come into your build anytime they want because it's a live permit. All right. You want the permitting office gone. As soon as you get a certificate of occupancy, you want them gone. Now, I had a home that I built, old Pioneer home, and I moved into it, got it all done, but the city never checked off on a certificate of occupancy. All right. 2 years later, they called me on it and said, hey, we never finished to finalize the site and shell inspection. And so I came and then they questioned the upstairs I built. They actually called the retired inspector to come in, and then I had to meet him here. And I said, yeah, there was a fireplace up there and there was a bathroom and all kinds of stuff. And so they passed off on it. All right. And I finally got a certificate of occupancy. But you don't want that lingering. You don't want that out there. They have a right to be able to come in and inspect the home until they get a CO, and then it's no longer that right. You have a private domicile residence, and it's all done. So don't let that linger. It's not fun. I would not recommend it, because if you start doing stuff on the inside and they spot that, they'll call you on it, especially moving walls and stuff like that or adding bathrooms. So be very, very careful. Get them in and out. All right, let's go to the next question.
And he says, will any jurisdiction, all jurisdictions?
Yeah, all jurisdictions are different, but you want to prepare for the worst challenge you have. Prepare for the worst inspection, the most challenging inspection. Just be aware of that. Don't assume that it's loosey-goose everywhere. All right. J, Q, if you have a choice between building an attached ADU or detached ADU, which one would you choose and why? Attached, 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 every single time. All right. Let's say in California, they have liberated the ADU availability or opportunity in the state of California. If you have a detached ADU, but you have an acre and a half or an acre, even a half acre of land, and you know you could add some more or build something else on there, they will limit that to the one you've already built unless you attach it to the home. Once you attach it to the home and you do it in a smart way, you now, if you have the space, you now can actually do a quote unquote ADU. So just plan for that. Attached is going to be your best bet, right? Next question. Chris Raychek, what are your thoughts on geothermal building on 40 acres in South Carolina? Now, that's not a bad idea with that kind of acreage. You have the ability, if it's a low profile, not too much of a hilly structure, and it's easy digging or trenching or drilling, depends on the geotech of that area. If you're going down 4 or 5 feet and you hit granite, it's not going to be a good thing to do, as long as you have a constant temperature in there. And I would talk with some boring companies or some geothermal companies and find out what they experience. And if you have the geotech report for that lot, that home site, 40 acres, I wish I had 40 acres, then it wouldn't be a bad thing. It's how easy the digging is going to be. Either it's a geothermal where they drill down wells, similar to wells, and they go down 40, 50, 80 feet, and they loop lines up through there, or it's an open field. They just dig it out like a huge Olympic-sized swimming pool. Then you run your lines through that 8, 9 feet down for a constant temperature. Then you bury it again. If it's easy digging for that, or it's nice, easy drilling, it shouldn't be bad. But in a tight-knit situation, and where you have very little land to dig, it's not that great. And then climate. If you live in a Midwest climate like me, you live in mild climate, you have 2 months of maybe 3 months of hot temperature. The rest of the time, we could literally have our doors open all day long and you wouldn't have any discomfort other than a couple of cold days. So geothermal is not going to be worth it there. But if you live in a colder climate with 4 seasons and you've got 8 months of cold temperatures and it's freezing and we're going into a more of a colder climate in the years to come, that's also a factor. And if it's going to get colder and colder, especially where you live, then look into it. So next question. Vista Video, thanks for sharing your knowledge. I don't know if I have much knowledge. I like sharing, but I don't know if I have anything to share. I'm in Denver using the cost estimator in the first steps course. I calculated the average cost of 243 per square foot. Does that sound correct? Results in house cost 600K. That's about close. As long as you eliminated the realtor fee and as long as you eliminated all those other fees that are in that formula, you get to the real cost per square foot. That's not bad for some higher end stuff. You probably could get it lower if you're able to manage a couple things on your own, but that's not bad really for today's market.
There's lots of variables.
There's a lot of variables, but that gets you real close to where it's the cost per square foot for you. All right. Now, what you put into the home and the land you get and the excavation costs, that can throw things up or down. But yeah, that's not bad. Yeah, that formula is due. I would do it a couple of times. Do that formula and get a realtor and ask for a CMA and ask for 4 or 5. And take one comparable market analysis of one home, run the formula. Do another one, run the formula. If you get 3 or even 4 of them, you can average them out and you'll see where that real cost per square foot is, and that's your target. Okay. Kai Hun. Hi, Keith. You mentioned that you are not a fan of the zip systems. Can you explain why? I'm in Denver, Colorado, and considering of using it on our build. It's a cost that you can accommodate in other ways. I like the Dorkin peel and stick vapor barrier, or it's vapor permeable, but it's water and air retardant, meaning it's going to keep that stuff out. And I don't like the paper flapping around, but I like the solid point. I'm not, and I wrestle with this with a lot of people. I'm not the kind of guy that wants to seal up my home 24/7 perfectly every single seam. If you have ever been in the winter and you're skiing outside and you put a coat on and you zip that thing up and you're skiing, you start to sweat inside. All right. Now, if your home starts to sweat, that's called a cold condensing surface, and that's going to create rot and moisture that can't escape, and you're going to create a problem. I love makeup air. I love bringing fresh air back into the home. You're still warm. You're cooking on your stove. You're taking a shower. You're creating heat inside the home. It's not really going to go anywhere. I'm not saying leave the window open and all these cracks and stuff like that. I'm not saying that. But I'm trying to allow for the escape of vapor. I'm trying to allow for water molecules to breathe through the home so you don't get wet. And the minute you get wet in a coat in the winter, you can have hypothermia as a human being. Well, the body or the house creates a cold condensing surface somewhere. That moisture is going to find somewhere to land. And if your wall is like this, it's going to find a way out, and it's going to be a cold condensing surface, and you're going to have some moisture problems. If the more you seal up the home, the more risks you take. That's just my experience, especially in cold climates. And I think we're going to see some problems down the road with a lot of these homes that are super sealed up. I'm going to be doing a video soon on a really good envelope of the home that's got vapor permeability, meaning it has the breathability to it, but it's got the insulation R value that's just rock solid. So watch for that. I've got one that I've broken ground on. I've got another one that we're going to be doing probably in late fall, early mid-winter sometime. And just keep an eye on some of these videos that are going to be coming out. I'm just going to change the game on it. It's going to be really cool. Okay, John Pope. Does a receipt showing invoice paid serve the same purpose as a lien waiver? No. A lien waiver is a legal phrasing, a legal document, And then a receipt shows that you paid that invoice. All right. But it doesn't say that they've released their lien rights. Okay. You need something that releases a lien right that a subcontractor would have. A lot of sophisticated banks will put a stamp on the back of a check. All right. By cashing this check, you release your lien rights, something like that. Or it's actually written on the top of the check before you sign it and endorse it, and before they do that. Or it's an actual written document. Now, I can't offer a lien waiver or lien right because I'm not an attorney. I can just tell you, you can go to, what do they call them?
Isn't it their government website that they can?
Government websites sometimes have them. An attorney, you could ask him, okay, can you give me one? And they'll pay you 150.
Title companies have
Title
them.
companies have them. That's the name I couldn't remember. Title companies have them, and you can check with them. And when you buy the land, ask for the title company. Hey, I'm going to be doing an owner builder. Do you guys have a lien waiver that you can offer me? And then you give that with every check. All right. And then they sign that. I like it stamped. I just like it stamped on the check. So when the check comes back to you, they've signed that, and you've got it all documented. Okay. All right. SM Build. Building an ADU in my backyard, I can confirm that the utilities upgrades of sewer, water, and power will cost close to $20K. Yeah. I'm still waiting for Edison to give us the plans. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It can be, and you may have a home that could be 4,500 square feet, and you may have a 200 amp panel, and you may just, I'm at the limit right now with a 200 amp panel. I haven't had any problems at all. But once you start adding on a lot, you get up to, 4,500, 7,500 square feet. Then you start pushing the limits of a 200 amp panel. And then you go into a 400 amp panel, and you go from an $800 panel to a 3,800. How much did our 400 amp panel cost? 3,500. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's probably more now. I just had somebody email me. They want to buy our 400 amp panel.
Sell it.
So I told him $4,200. He's got to reach out to me
He's
through
watching this
the,
video right now.
Yeah.
he's watching the video right now. So,
Email Kinsey at kelsconstruction.com.
yeah, email my daughter. And we'll buy. Well, they can't get them. That's the problem. He's been searching everywhere for them.
You can have ours.
And so we do have a nice brand new 400 amp panel we'll sell to somebody if they need that. So let's go to the next question. If building in phases, how much can waiting to build a connected garage or finishing upstairs bedroom reduce the upfront cost? Is slab on grade a good choice in Denver versus extra square foot of a basement? It's a really good question. Here's the problem. You've got a frost depth because you're a mile high that's 36 inches plus. So you're going to go down with a frost depth like that. Okay. You can't see my hands.
Here, let me there.
All right.
Now you can.
You're going to have a frost that's going to go deep. And then if it's slab on grade, that's another 4 inches on top of that. So 40 inches. All right. So slab on grade isn't going to be much of an issue, but the minute you go stem wall, okay, and you've got a frost depth like that, like in Alaska, you've got a frost depth that can approach 40 and 45 inches and sometimes deeper. You're now talking about a basement anyway, because you're 2-3 feet as a stem wall. The difference between 3 feet and another 5 or 6 feet is nominal. It's just digging it out and pouring the foundation. You've got all that embedded basement in the dirt. You've got all that thermal mass on the outside, and it's a positive. So in some climates, it's advantageous, and others, it's not. And again, it depends on the cost of land, cost of excavation, where you're going to haul the dirt. If you can keep the dirt on site and it's a large lot, even better, because you use all that excess dirt to slope to the house for positive drainage. In Colorado, yes. In other places, you can't do it. In New Orleans, you can't do a basement. You'd leak. The water table there is like a foot down in a lot of places. So again, it's where you are and where you're planning to build. So next question, Chris Raychek, who lays out position of the house after excavation is done? Concrete company or me acting as GC? All three of them, to be honest with you. The excavator is going to need it marked out before they come, and it's usually white lines, a white spray can. and you'll mark out 3, maybe sometimes feet beyond the actual footprint. They'll excavate that or recompact it, whatever the geotech requires. And then once that pad is ready, you come with the concrete subcontractor, and you remark it out again with them, making sure that you have your corners. If you have your corners marked on your property line, string a line, and they'll pull setbacks from there. So all of you work together on that, and sometimes you have to do it twice. So, okay, Kevin Garrett, can you owner contract the setup of a manufactured home, water and sewer utilities to the city electric HVAC? Yes, you can. You can owner build every state in the nation, and you can build anything you want within the guidelines of local permitting offices. However, I'll give you some feedback on modular home, or a manufactured home. You're going to lose value over time. It's not going to be on a permanent foundation. Even if you put it on a permanent foundation, like a typical CMU block, and you put it on a permanent foundation, it's not going to hold as much of a value as a permanent foundation with a stick-built home. I would strongly recommend even going with a smaller ADU, putting it on a permanent foundation, keeping your costs as low as you can, and not put a manufactured home on there. I'll let my wife make some comments on that. You want to make a comment with that as a realtor?
Hi. Yes, if you have a stick-built home, it is always holds its value much better than a manufactured or a mobile home. And I would say the same thing. I would go smaller and do stick-built. It will be worth it than just to think it's going to be quick and easy to put a modular on. You still have to do the sewer and all the different things, break out the cost, but it would be worth it in the long run. You're adding more value. I would agree.
Yeah, just our personal, experience here on that. And the more you can get a permanent foundation on a stick built or in a CMU or even a straw bale home, something that's built and it's going to stay there, it's not going anywhere, you're going to maintain your value, and your equity in the home is going to increase better that way than a modular. I know it's easy with a modular, slap it in there, bring your utilities to the site. But there are some simple log home kits that are pretty quick, and they're on a permanent foundation. And there's some other kits. There's a company up north here that does some kits, but it's more like a modular home. Research that. Take your time, and the utility costs on the modular are going to be higher. The wall is only a 2x4 wall. It's not going to be a 2x6 wall. And some of the older ones were less than 2 inches of insulation, so it's not a well-built home. So think about that and take your time. Take your time with that. And it's harder to find financing for a modular, which is why a lot of those modular homes will do the financing in-house, and you're going to pay a little higher price because of that. So take your time with that. Give some consideration with what we've given you there. Okay, next question. Alex R., what are the phases of a build that you can take your time to cash flow before going vertical and getting dried in? Good question. I was thinking about this about a couple of days ago. Back in the day, in the 60s and 70s, people would build a basement, all right? And then they would put a floor over the basement. They would put some decking material or something to cover that basement and insulate those trusses underneath, and have stairs coming from the outside into the basement. If I was really gung-ho and I wanted to take my time, typically this is in a rural environment, you can do this, but I would build a basement, live in the basement, and then a couple of years later, go vertical on top of that. All right. Now, this requires that you have to have the plans for the whole house up front, because the truss, the floor, and the foundation have to eventually accommodate for that build up there. But I would love to see a subdivision. If somebody had the guts to just build a basement subdivision, and then people build up vertically after that, they could get into a home affordably. You could cut off, I would say, a couple $100,000 on the upward build of a home to get into it But we used to think like that. We used to build like that a long time ago, but I haven't seen anyone build like that today. Everybody wants everything now. And as a result, we're giving all this money to the banks, extending our mortgages up 30 years. And that's a huge nightmare. That's what I would do. All right. If not, I would do a garage with a loft above it, live in the loft, and I got the garage, and the garage acts as a housing for all the materials for a future build. That would be another idea that I would think about. Those two options are my favorite. So
that's how the cash flow, that's how you would do it?
yeah, that's what I would do if I have the cash flow.
Garage and then that.
I have a woman, a really sweet lady. She's been cash flowing a large home in California, and she's been building for, I think, a little over 12 months now. And she has the whole outside done, so you can't tell. Now she's looking at finishing off the inside. But she had some other revenue sources from some businesses she had. And so she's getting it done. It's taking a little more time, but she is getting it done. So Josh James, I'm considering an Omni block home and wondering what the best roof system would be. It seems a wood roof loses some of the benefits and efficiency of having Omni block. Not necessarily. It depends on the eave design of that room, that home, and how much insulation you can pack at the eave. And if you have a truss system that's right flat, like if your truss and here's the wall of an Omni block and you land it like that and you've only got 6 inches of insulation, well, I'd have a heel lift. I'd lift that roof so it's at least 18 or 12 inches above the top plate of that Omni block, and that way you can have ventilation through some air vents, and then you can also pack a lot of insulation in there. And then you've got your top plate, and you can strap that truss down with hurricane straps. You're not going to go anywhere. So, see you, sweetie. She's taking off. There's Kinsey going. Say bye.
Oh, bye, everyone.
She's taking off. Hope that answers your question. Great with OmniBlock. Awesome. You'll love it. Jose Perez, an architect drew my plans, excavating in 2 months, worth paying him again to travel 2 hours to come in and out double check all the measurements of the rough plumbing and forms before the slab is poured. Is it worth? Yeah, you can probably FaceTime him and not have to pay the extra money if that's the case. But you can measure everything yourself. You can pull a string, pull a tape, make sure everything's landed outright before you pour the slab. Now I'm just looking into possibly finishing off a very high-end custom home, and they've got the toilet 2 feet out of the bathroom and it's in the middle of the hallway. And how they got that wrong, I don't know. So I'm going to have to cut into concrete and move the toilet. So that can be a costly thing, and especially if you're maybe polish the concrete and not do anything there, that can be ugly looking down the road. So toilets get moved a lot. I'm going to tell you right now, in slab on grade, I've moved toilets and plumbing a lot. And sometimes it's just really hard when you have so many angles to a home. And where are you going to pull from? You're going to pull from this string and pull from that string and whatever. And the more complicated you make that pad, the more risks you run of getting that toilet just a little off. And even if it's a narrow toilet like this, maybe 3 or 4 feet wide, if you get that toilet off 4 inches or even 3, it's going to throw everything off. And moving it, I've moved more toilets than I have anything. So the more simply you can make it, the better. Okay, Tino Slapani. Hope I said that right. What are your thoughts on builder's first source, ready frame? Not a fan of that. You're paying a higher price for lumber. And let's say the lumber comes and it's all bound and it's all marked where it's going to go. What if some of that lumber starts to go wild and it starts to, I live in the heat. All right. The minute I break that bundle. All right. The extreme, I have a humidity of maybe 14 or 8%. I'm serious. It's that dry. It's going to suck all the moisture out of that wood so fast, it's going to go like this, right? So I have to frame fast. I have to get my wood in place, and I've got to get the sheeting on there so I can hold that wood in place. So that's the risk I run into with that product. I would never build with that product in Arizona, southwestern Utah, southwestern Mexico, West Mexico, any of the Midwest areas where it's really, really, really dry. On the coastal regions, it might be okay because you're going into one humidity factor to another. So it may not be as much of an issue. But for me, it just would not work. It would not work.
I would still be careful.
Okay, next question. Josh James, I'm trying to build with cash equity from my current home. If I run out of cash after the envelope is complete, is it possible to get a loan HELOC when the home is not complete? Yes, you can do that. But here's the best advice I have for people. I'm doing a home for a client that may want to stop at around 400,000. And he may not want to go to the complete build, which is around 850,000. So I'm thinking of that in advance. So I'm saying to myself, let's get the envelope. Let's get the complete envelope done. And let's get the sewer punched through the roof. And any ventilation, if I have gas or even radon gas, let's make sure we puncture that through the roof. And so once that's put through the roof, now we can get a complete envelope, get all the windows, get the siding, get all that material done. Okay. Now keep in mind, you run a risk. If you're doing stucco, all right, and you suddenly hang the drywall on the inside, put all that weight on that, you can crack the stucco. So that's the one thing you have to watch out for. Or if it's just a hanging clad system like a shiplap or a batten board or something like that, you're not going to have that much of a problem. But stucco, you will have a problem. So that's the only thing I would keep in mind. Can I get to full envelope enclosure? Can I get the windows? Can I get it dry in? Can I get this? So I know that I'm not going to have any weathering against that home. And if I can, then you can cash flow from there. And those are nominal. It's the big costs. It's the excavation, it's the concrete, it's the framing labor, and all the ancillary things to get that full envelope. Once you get that, man, anyone literally can cash flow the rest over time. The only problem is you can't live in it until you get a CO, but at least you can cash flow it. So, okay, Laurel Beck, with the zip system, there are ventilation to carry the bad air out. Yeah, it's called makeup air. You have to have makeup air inside a zip system. That's the other requirement. It increases that cost, and that's a power cost. That's an energy cost, and it's constantly bringing in makeup air. That's why I don't like zip systems. They just, it's more complication. Why increase complication in your home? If instead of the zip systems, why not put 1 inch of rock wool on the outside of the home with maybe a really good Dorkin peel and stick product on that system? You've got a wonderful, wonderful envelope, and it's superior to the zip system. Again, I look at it like a Band-Aid, and I get a cut. I don't wear a Band-Aid. I might wear it for the first hour to stop the bleeding, but when night comes, I take that Band-Aid off and I let that thing air out. I'm not going to let it get infected. And I think a home is just like a human body. I treat it the same. That's what I do. Okay, next question. I understand building a tight house seems problematic with moisture. However, our city and county requires a passive house build standard. Now, passive house is different. A passive house is really a house that is going to capture thermal, and not just solar energy, but other conservation of energy. And a lot of homes are going toward the full insulation envelope model, not necessarily full zip model. And you can actually replace the so-called blower door test to make sure there's no air leaks. And you can replace that with, not necessarily replace it, but you can actually supplement it with a full envelope, a blanketed insulation. I've got a client now, and they said we can either go with solar and a full zip system to meet the city requirement, or I go with a full insulation on the outside of the home. I go full insulation. You're going to save money. Putting on that solar on the house is going to be costly. And then also putting, sealing it up with a zip system, that's going to be costly. So again, if I'm in a colder climate, I like a big, thick coat on me. And if I get cold, I just zip it up here, but I still can breathe. Okay. And if it's warm outside and I'm working hard, I'm cutting wood, I can unzip that and I can breathe and not get sweaty. I build like that. That's how I like to build my homes. All right. and which means it's not a complete seal. I like to protect a home from water more than air. So on the foundation of a home, if this is my home and this is a slab on grade, I love to seal the transition from the cement to the frame structure. That's your biggest air leak right there. And you'll see on some more videos I have in the future, if I can seal that off, I'm sealing off one of the major problems of a home, and that's the air leak and the bugs and all that getting inside the home from underneath the shiplap or what have you. And if I do that and I seal it up really, really tight there, I've solved a major, major problem. The rest of the home, I'm not so interested. And if I have a flood, I did a home in the river bottom just south of me, about 2 miles that way. And I was really worried about flooding. So we put a kind of a felt mesh product, which got some primer, and it's like an elastometric product. It's liquid applied. And we went 8 inches down on the slab, and then we went about 1.5 feet to almost 2 feet above that. So if water comes in and it rushes against this foundation of that home, it's not going to get anything wet. All you have to do is sandbag the doors, the garage door and the doors to the home. Nothing's going to get. I guarantee you, nothing's going to get into that home because we've sealed it up so well.
We have lots of questions.
Okay.
And I have a meeting.
Okay. All right. Another question here. Let's get through it. Plans call for 16D common nails for framing. Yep. These are hard to find and uncommon with framer. Can I substitute for the other nails according to the building code? If their building code allows for the other nails, yeah. 16 penny, yeah. That's kind of it's probably have some shear issues and wind and seismic issues in your area. But yeah, talk with your local building and ask them if you can replace it with something that can be in a nail gun. So, Crowsville Engineering, what is the best way to orient stairs with respect to the economy for an upstairs with full attic access trusses? Really good question. If your trusses are running this way through the home, all right, you want to run the stairs up through the same orientation as your trusses. If your trusses are running this way and you want to run your stairs this way, that's going to be a nightmare. You'd never want to run stairs perpendicular to the attic trusses. You want to run them parallel. And why? Because let's say your stair system is 4 feet wide. Well, on this side, you're going to have a girder truss, which means 2 regular trusses smashed together, and you'll stick build the rest of the roof on the way up. You'll have a girder truss over here as well. But run your stairs parallel into the attic and not perpendicular. You can't cut the truss. All right, keep that in mind. That's the best way I can answer that. Crossville Engineering, considering OmniBlock, but have not looked at other specs. My wife prefers a crawl space over slab. Will that be possible, or will we need to go raise slab? You can do it with OmniBlock. You just have to have a ledger or anchor hangers to come into the 3rd or 4th run up. When you talk with Denny at OmniBlock, he'll show you what kind of hangers you're going to have to put in so you can put your floor system in. And then underneath that, it's going to be 2 or 3 feet for a crawl space. You can do that. It's just you have to time it right, and you have to put the right hangers in. And where you put those hangers, that's going to be a bond beam, meaning rebar and concrete. You're going to put your hangers inside that and fill it up with concrete, and then you're ready to hang your floor, and you can even go vertical thereafter. So it's just a little more information, a little more engineering that you have to study and prepare for. If not, just a good stem wall. Whatever's easier for you, a good stem wall might be that, and with a full stick build envelope on top of that might be your better bet. So, next question.
I thought he was doing Omni.
No, they were just considering it. JMO, we are having 1 acre of land cleared in southern Colorado. A lot of Colorado people today. 1/4 acre will be fully cleared for the house. The other 3/4 acre will be cleared for the fire mitigation, including a hallway. Is $10K an okay price? That's not bad. I just don't know what clearing means. Are there trees or just sagebrush or trees and cedar? What kind of trees? What's that?
Or a whole forest? How it?
Yeah, and if it's a pine or cedar, I don't know what type of tree. If it's anything bigger than that, that's not a bad price. But if it's bigger than this, that's a really good price. But if it's just sagebrush on there, it's kind of high. It depends on what kind of organic matter you're going to have to haul out. So, and how much of it. Laura, where can you vent a home? Good question. Typically, depends on if it's 2 or 3 stories. I typically vent them up through the chimney. The chimney is one of the best because the more penetrations you have through a roof, the more possibility for leaks. Okay. So if you can take your radon and even your gas venting and take it up through your chimney, then you can eliminate the look of your home. I worked in a very high-end community in the mountain communities up in Park City, and they did not allow for any plumbing, any radon gas, any gas ventilation through the roof, period. Everything had to come up through the chimney because they didn't want any, pipes coming through the roof. They were that meticulous on it. So if you design your chimney just right, you can be in the center of the home or close to the center of the home. You can hopefully work all your pipes up through that direction. So that's the best way to do it. It means you have to have a larger chimney. It's going to be a little bigger to accommodate for that, but at least you've got a chase to run everything up through there. So Alex R., do you recommend painting brick? We want a white brick exterior, but some people oppose it because the brick also needs to breathe. You can get some porous paint and find out the best paint quality you can for that. But yeah, you're right. Concrete is porous and it needs to breathe. And so I'm not a fan of painting brick. It peels and it comes off over time. So I wouldn't, unless you get a finished brick product that's kind of like a faux brick or faux stone that's got a finished look on it, but I wouldn't paint it. You're not going to be happy with that over time. So, okay, Deb's camera. I'm thinking about OmniBlock too. I'm wondering about the base because my property is a mix of wetlands, uplands. Can I build on stilts with OmniBlock or a post-tension waffle slab construction? I wouldn't go with the post-tension on that one. I'm not a fan of post-tension because you can't ever cut into the concrete to move a sewer line or anything like that, because the minute you cut that post-tension, the whole slab is gone. So I'd stay away from post-tension if you can. And then build on stilts with OmniBlock. You're talking about a bond beam, and you're also talking about piers. I would go stick build on that over OmniBlock. That's just my gut feeling right away, because you're putting in excess of amount of weight on that pier structure, and that's going to be a little more engineering complexity to handle that. And so that's just my best take on that, without really knowing the geology of the site and the elevations and all that. How do you feel about flat, low slope to add usable space, whether from mechanical, patio, green roof? How do you feel about a flat, low slope? Usable space upstairs, you mean? Mechanical?
How do you feel about low slope?
You're probably talking about a flat, low roof to put mechanical on top of that. I wouldn't do it. I would get the mechanical inside condition space if you can. And anytime you have a low profile roof like that, you're destined to have some leakage and some problems over time. I don't like to do a roof that's lower than a 312 pitch, and that's risking it for me. My favorite pitch is between 512 and 712. Once it gets over 712, 8, 9, 10, 12, you as an owner builder can't get up there without safety harnesses. It's really very scary. So between a 5 and 712, you can get up there and walk up there and not feel like you're, oh, I'm going to fall off the roof. So I try to stay away from that flat roof if I can. You don't need a commercial home. You go through commercial environments and everything's a flat roof, but they've got a pony wall, all right, a parapet wall, and it's 2 or 3 feet up, and it's hiding all the mechanical from view. And so I know there's a lot of Southwest homes that are like that. They try to hide the mechanical and put it on the roof, but I like to put it inside the home. Okay, next question. Kevin Perry. How do I find good subcontractors in my area? I'm having a hard time finding a foundation company who knows how to do a frost-protected monolithic slab in my area, Central Indiana, climate zone 5. Well, they may be scary to do a mono. Yeah, I would recommend possibly a two-step foundation. If they're more comfortable with the two-step, they pour the footing first. That takes care of most of your frost protection. Then once that's poured, they got sticks and stakes inside that concrete. Then they form up and they pour the slab after that. Ask them if they're more comfortable with the two-step or a one-step mono. That's the first thing to do. The second thing to do is ask around, talk to people, and don't give off that you are an owner builder. Give off that you're a builder and go create an email that says Joe's Building Indiana Builder, something like that. Just any kind of email, and that's your email that you communicate through as an owner builder. And just call yourself a builder. Get rid of the owner builder, and you should be able to be better off at taking your plans out there. And then go to concrete mixing plants, go to supply houses, ask them around, hey, do you have any concrete people? I'm a builder in town, just looking for a new concrete guy. Again, never give off that you're an owner builder. I dealt with a student years ago, and he had very inadequate confidence, and he wanted me to hold his hand. And his wife wanted to build a home really, really, really badly. But all he could do was complain about people not wanting to help him. And I said, it's the vibe you're giving off, okay? If you do this and you build this home and you suddenly call yourself a builder, nothing else but a builder, and don't let anybody else know that you're anything less than that, you will build an incredible amount of capacity as a human being. But he just couldn't get out over that hump, and I felt real bad. And his wife was really driven and hopeful that he would have pulled it out and made it happen. But he complained. And the minute you start complaining that there's no one out there to help, you're not networking right. You're not asking the right questions. Keep your head up, look straight at, hey, I'm looking for a builder, or I'm looking for a concrete guy, new builder in town here. Do you know somebody I can contact? I'm looking for a couple of contacts. Just say it just like that, like you're a builder. Not like this. Hey, I'm an owner builder. I'm just having trouble finding somebody. Can you give me a reference? Nobody wants to give a reference to that. Look right straight across at somebody and ask them, and just say to yourself, I'm a builder. I'm looking for referrals. You've got money to put in somebody's pocket, okay? And keep it like a business. I'm looking to hire somebody great, and I'm a great builder, and give me some referrals. Now, I'm serious. That's the way you got to do it, all right? Cold steel rails. We broke ground last week. Congratulations. And footers in. Wall forms up and ready today. Do you get lien waivers on progress payments? Yes, you do. Like plumber, after rough-in is done for underslab in basement, he will want payment. Yes, you can. I make sure I get a lien waiver on that last draw. Plumber's going to have 3 draws. Framer's going to have a couple. And if you know how many draws they're going to have, you wait till that last one, and then you make sure you get a lien waiver for that last draw. Now, some banks are going to ask for lien waivers every single time, okay? And some sophisticated subcontractors will say, I'm not going to sign that until I'm done, all right? But I've never had anybody say that. They're going to take that check and they're going to cash the check, all right? But make sure you at least get a lien waiver on the last draw that they submit for. Okay, next question.
Okay, this is a 3-1. You have to watch. Okay?
It's a 3-part question?
It came in 3 parts.
Okay. This is from Roverly 63. My backyard ADU sewer has to go along the side of the house, my house, that is 5 feet between block wall and side of the house with a concrete slab. How wide do I need to cut the slab? Should I remove and replace? Very good question. I am concerned about the wall footing shifting and very sandy soil. All right. The wall is going to have a concrete in it if it's a concrete wall, and then the house is going to have a footing, and you're 5 feet wide. Talk to your plumber, but a bucket size could be a 12-inch bucket, or it could be an 18-inch bucket. The problem is how deep is that sewer, and do they need to get down in that trench, or can they just lay it down there, get their bellies on, glue it, and drop it down into the trench? Probably 18 inches for the bucket. And then you cut that concrete another 2 feet, but then you got to recompact it and fill it up, and you're going to see the cut there. Now, I don't know if you want to pull out that much concrete just to do that. but do it center, keep it away from the wall, keep it away from the house. You don't want to disturb the foundation of the house. But if you plan, if it's going to look ugly and you don't like that concrete patchwork, then just take out the whole thing. But that could be risky too, because you don't know if there's rebar in that foundation tied to the house. All right. So you never know. You never know how people put things together. If it's a concrete is really, really solid and there's no cracks in it, then you want to save that. But if the concrete's messed up, it's got spalling, it's got cracking all over the place, you may want to just, and it's got drainage problems, you could solve a lot of things by pulling it out, taking it to a refuse center for free, if you can haul it off that way, and then pouring it new. It depends. You know, you have to weigh all these costs and figure it out. But between 18 and 24 inches wide, should get down the deep. But if that sewer is in excess of 8 feet, that's a lot of dirt. That's a lot of dirt. So you want to find out how deep it is. And I can answer some questions for you. Laurel Beck, what can you do to forego a forced air AC heater? I have covered radiant heat now and no air conditioning. I am in Larkspur, Colorado. Forced air. Just do a mini split. Do that. I got that up on the wall here. Mini splits can control each room, and they here's the advantage of a mini split. You've got a condensate line that's about that big, a condensate line and another supply line, and it's all wrapped together in tape. And that's all you have to do, fit that through your frame structure. Versus forced air can be 6 inches, 8 inches, and even sometimes bigger, trying to fit that through your frame structure, especially if it's a remodel. So I'd look into some mini splits. And here's the neat thing. You could do a mini split system, and you can have four heads on it, but you only buy for one head for one room, and the other rooms are not going to be used, but you have the supply line that runs there. They can make the connections later. I did the front of my house that way. I added one mini split and another mini split for the main living and the bedroom, and then I have another bedroom up there and an upstairs, and we added those later. Now, again, stages so we can cost it. The mini split's probably the best heating and air system for staging the build of a home. It's pretty cool. So talk with your HVAC contractor about them. Don't let them get cheap systems. Make sure they get a nice system. Do some research and find out which one has the best recommendations. Josh James, what percentage of the home cost is the envelope? And is OmniBlock still less cost than 2x6? OmniBlock has done this. They've been the same cost and sometimes higher. Sometimes the same, sometimes higher. It depends upon some of the labor costs. And if you have a lot of building going on in your area, and there's a lot of masons that are hungry, right now you can probably get some good masons, structural masons who are familiar with bond beams. A bond beam is rebar concrete over the top of a window. Right over that window there, this is an OmniBlock home. Right over the top of that window right there is a bond beam. It's got rebar that goes 2 feet that way, and it's got concrete in it so it can support the weight above it. If that mason is familiar with a bond beam and they're hungry for work, yes, it's a great thing to do. But if there's not a lot of masons in your area, you're going to struggle to get some work there. Talk with Denny at OmniBlock and ask him if he can give a recommendation. He's got recommendations all over the country now for people who can do the work for you. Check with him first. And if there's nobody local, then look into the 2x6.
Just a quick update.
JMO, addition to my above question, the land is heavily wooded. Yeah, again, heavily wooded what? Like that or like that or like that? All right, this is going to be more costly to get rid of on a land. And then also the type of tree. If it's an oak, that's a nightmare. Oak trees go straight down a root, and they got a tap root, and you have to dig down quite a bit. Is it aspen or a poplar or a cottonwood? Well, they live fast and die young, and they're very shallow root systems, are easy to get up. So again, the breed of the tree is going to tell you a lot in the thickness of the diameter of the tree. Okay, did we catch up?
Yep.
Oh, good. We're caught up there. We're done there for the day. I answered a lot of questions. Thanks, everybody. Make sure you like, subscribe, share to everybody. We'll be here. We're not going to be here next week. Yeah, we won't be here next week. I'm at a girls' camp with my wife, kind of a church outing thing that I'll be to. But we'll be here in 2 weeks. Save your questions, hold them. And I have a lot of students emailing questions as well. And I've been really a lot more active online at howtobuildyourownhome.com. Go there if you want. Take the First Steps course, gives you a 5,000 foot level approach. Then the self-managed package gives you all the tools you need, tons of video, over 85 different checklists with video instruction. It's pretty robust, all right? I'm a teacher for 20 years, so I know how to put this stuff together, not just a builder having an idea to put something online. I have actual teaching experience. So check it out, go there, but I'm actively engaged in answering questions. And the neat thing is the questions come in relevant to specific subject matter in the building process. So you'll see other feedback and other questions from other students. So that's where I'm building this huge library of commentary. And it's really cool.
Sorry,
So
I think I missed one.
yeah, if
Sorry.
you missed one, we'll take one more question.
For Josh.
But go there, howtobuildyourownhome.com, and check it out. What percentage of the cost to build is the envelope? I've heard some say 50% and others say 75%. Really good question. Depends on the design of the home, the height of the walls. If you go with a 9-foot ceiling, 10 or 11-foot ceiling, that's going to increase the actual envelope of the home. It's also going to determine what you're going to put on the outside. One of my number one videos I've ever done was the real cost of a home. Watch that video. It's on my YouTube channel. And I talk about the 2x6 wall, the insulation, the sheeting, all the ancillary attachments on the outside, then the drywall, and then all the mud, tape, texture, primer, all that. Up to 7 different layers. That's the real cost of a home. So that's why I was interested in OmniBlock. It's got better efficiency wall. There's less hands touching the wall, but then because of that, you've got a better wall system, great for hurricanes and all that kind of stuff. I'm still looking for the ultimate ideal wall with fewer hands touching it. And the more you can design your wall with the least amount of outside hands touching it, the better off you are. So anyway, I could talk forever on that subject matter. So
Thanks.
thanks, everybody. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks from today. You guys take care.